Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and here we talk about the harmful beliefs and ideas that come from religion, red pill, and so on. And today we're discussing Brittany Dawn. Before we get into it, I would like to thank you for joining me for this video, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. For anyone unfamiliar with Brittany Dawn, she's a former fitness influencer turned Christian influencer after she was caught scamming her customers. I'll leave some links below for anyone who wants more in-depth details, but in short, she promised personalized fitness and nutrition plans and did not deliver on the personalized part, or at all in some cases. This led to the state of Texas suing her, and in April of this year, Brittany settled with the state for the low price of $400,000. I've been aware of Brittany for years, but I wasn't moved to say anything about the situation until she posted this video last month. Breaking my silence, I was sued by the state of Texas. Right off the bat, I thought this video would be a manipulative piece of garbage trying to convince viewers that really, she did nothing wrong. It was all a misunderstanding that went too far. And I was right, except it was actually worse than I thought it would be. And I must not be the only one who thought so, because comments are off on that video for some reason. Anyway, before we get into it, I would like to note that I don't know Brittany. These are my thoughts and opinions, and they are not going to be kind because I have no patience for scammers. Maybe I'm being too harsh, feel free to disagree with me, but I have a pretty long temper, and something I just can't abide is someone using religion to scam people. And I do think Brittany is continuing to grift just under the guise of religion instead of fitness. So this is how her video opens, and right away I knew we were in for manipulation.
I don't even know how to start.
Introduce yourself. Is that a side pony?
Yeah.
Okay. Rock it. Just go with it.
Okay.
You can do this.
Hello YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. In full transparency, I just had a breakdown because this is probably the hardest video I'm ever going to film.
As an aside, I don't know how she does this professionally and has such terrible audio. But anyway, these videos are edited. There was no reason to leave this in except to get the viewer to feel terrible about the horrible time Brittany is having right now. And also, she says she just had a breakdown, she keeps sniffling throughout, she's holding a tissue that she dabs at her eyes. I would call this crocodile tears, but I don't see any tears, and her makeup is remarkably perfect. Not a smudge to be seen, no red eyes or nose. And this, Brittany, is why people continue calling you a scammer. You are not sincere, and it's painfully obvious. This occurs throughout the video where Brittany is overwhelmed by emotion and Jordan has to whisper encouragement to her or, in some cases, speak for her. But apparently she tried to do this video alone and couldn't, so he's here for moral support. But anyway, we're here for Brittany to break her silence, so let's hear what she has to say.
I'm here today to give full context, first to take full responsibility for where I went wrong, for the mistakes that were made, where I messed up, but also to give full context to this lawsuit, how my business started, where things went wrong, and how everything came about and ended in being sued by the state of Texas at 28 years old.
Except she doesn't actually take full responsibility. She just talks about her mistakes. Brushing everything off as a mistake is not taking full responsibility, especially because we know there was a moment when Brittany knew she wasn't and couldn't provide personalized fitness plans for everyone who paid for one. And rather than close down sales, put people on wait lists, hire help, she made a conscious choice to sell generic plans. And to be honest, I don't really care if she was prideful or whatever. The fact remains that she decided to sell the same plan to everyone and still call it personalized, and that decision is not only wrong in a business sense, but she was selling diet and fitness plans. That can be dangerous. I'm also not really sure how context would make her actions any better. Maybe she didn't intend to start a business, but she did, and however old she was and is, her actions are still her responsibility. She goes on to tell us that she'll try not to get emotional, but she can't promise anything because she's human, and the past 4 years were the hardest she's ever lived in her life because she's had to keep quiet and live in secret. And then she turns to Jordan, and I don't think I've ever cringed so much in my life.
Should I start at the beginning? Yeah.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah.
I am not sure what they're going for here, but to me it reads like a cross between submissive helpmeet and lost little girl looking to daddy. Either way, it's as if they're trying to play it off as though Brittany was too young to have scammed anyone. They seem to have this idea, or at least to pretend to have this idea, that you can only scam someone if you set out with the intent to do so, and no. I think Brittany did initially set up her business actively. It didn't just fall into her lap to sell her plans once she saw there was a demand for it and she thought she could make some money off something she enjoyed. And I do believe it was successful beyond her expectations. And I also believe she, for whatever reason, decided to just sell generic plans instead of the personalized ones she was promising once the demand exceeded what she could create. And that was her choice. It was a bad one. The wise thing to do would be to own it and move on, but Brittany has a different way of doing things. However, she does know what she should do.
I do want to say that I am so sorry for anyone that was genuinely hurt by this. It was never my intention to harm anyone.
She should have stopped there. This video could have been under 5 minutes, but that's how I knew it was going to be a manipulative attempt at twisting the truth. 23 minutes is way too long for a "I'm sorry, I messed up and I'm going to do better in the future." But Brittany has a lot of excuses and explanations.
I started a business when I was young and it blew up and became something that I never could have seen coming, and because of that and because of my arrogance and just being dumb, for lack of better words, and not letting my pride get the best of me and being prideful and not asking for help, things happened and things slipped through the cracks, but nothing was ever done maliciously, and everything is done with as of April 25th.
There seems to be this belief that since Brittany didn't start her company to scam people, we all need to forget about it, but that's not the way that works. Regardless of her original intentions, her company did become a scam, and it's not up to the scammer to decide when people need to move on, or, for that matter, what that looks like. Brittany begins the story in 2012 when she was in college and really insecure. She looked up to the bubbly, confident girls, and though she had been an athlete her whole life, she had been focused on being quick and strong and powerful, not the physical aesthetics. She had, quote, a drastic transformation, and provides pictures of said transformation. And I would like to note that including losing weight, Brittany also dyed her brown hair blonde and began tanning. She says she shared these pictures on her Instagram, which was new at the time, to be an inspiration. Girls began asking how she had achieved that transformation, and I have questions.
At this point, I'd been a personal trainer for quite some time. I was blessed to be under the umbrella of these personal trainers and this gym management, and they were just incredible, and I learned so much and was just so hungry to learn about all the things with anatomy and physiology. And
am I understanding this correctly? Brittany began selling her diet and fitness plans on the basis of having been a personal trainer for some time. I am so curious as to how she figured she could sell personalized plans. She knew and knows what works for her, but personalized, that requires a depth of knowledge that I don't think she had. And after this, she says this is where she gets flustered, and Jordan suggests she talk about the business, which leads to this bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was so passionate about all of it.
We can tell. I'm sorry, but that made me laugh. Anyway, Brittany explains that everything she had felt, she wanted other women to feel that too, and she loved her clients and still has connections to some of them. And from here we move into 2013 when Brittany decided,
I got this idea to start a website, not knowing what would come of it.
They are really trying to push that all of this was an accident, aren't they? Anyway, Brittany says she never could have seen what was coming and that her business took off, which is usually what people aim for when they start a business, but anyway. She says she feels frazzled again, and Jordan asks, what kind of growth did you see?
I mean, it became a 6-figure business within the first year. Within 7 years, it surpassed, well over $1 million. in revenue.
You might think that sounds like a good thing, but Brittany gives a quote about your reality growing faster than your perception of yourself and says that was what genuinely happened to her. And that she felt she needed to add genuinely to that statement makes me doubt, but anyway, Brittany says she was young, in school for animal science, and didn't know how to run a business. And what?
I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know anything about owning a business. Like, I never had an intention to run a business or own a business. I never could have seen that coming.
I'm sorry, she never could have seen what coming? Is she trying to say that someone else started the business for her? That she did it in her sleep? What is going on here? I know she's trying to brush off her scam as not that bad, but this is just weird.
I was 23 in 2013, so I was a baby.
No, you weren't. You were a young adult, but you were still an adult. Brittany then tells us,
just trying to manage and learn, and sorry I'm fidgeting, you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess.
no, you're not. You're trying to convince your audience that you are, though, so they'll feel sorry for you and go easy on you. And yes, I am disgusted by the blatant manipulation going on here. Following this, Brittany tells us that she was young, dumb, and naive, and, well,
I had no idea how to manage this business that was now being placed in my hands.
for someone saying she was taking full responsibility, she sure does keep using language that gives her no agency. She didn't want the business, she didn't know how to run a business, it just happened. And then she tells us that's why she didn't ask for help. She didn't know she could. And I'm just, really? You didn't know that companies have employees? Are we really supposed to believe that? The answer is no, because Brittany then goes on to say she was prideful and figured anything that needed to be done, she could do herself. So she did know she could hire someone, she just didn't think they would do as good a job as she did, though my personal opinion is that she didn't want to pay someone. We jump from here to 2019, where Brittany requires some more encouragement from Jordan. However, it's not enough, and so Jordan is the one who tells us that in 2019, a prank video of a man accusing Brittany of scamming his daughter during a fitness expo went live. Brittany jumps in to say she was caught off guard and that her dad taught her not to say anything when you don't know what to say, rather than saying something you'll regret, which she thinks made her look guilty. Brittany seems to think it was this video that caused her downfall, but people were catching on to her scam years before. Someone with a large platform calling her out likely sped up the timeline, but I think it was inevitable. And then Jordan jumps in again with this.
I think that the main thing that the video did that was unfair in this situation is the video perpetuated a false narrative that Brittany was a scammer and that she was a fraud and defrauded people intentionally.
So let me get this straight. A business owner advertises personalized fitness and nutrition plans. People pay for this, and instead they all get the same product, which is not tailored to their individual needs, or they get no product at all. This is not a one-off or an accident, but something that goes on for years and only stops once called out publicly. How is this not a scam? How is it unfair to say it's a scam? From here, Jordan talks about how one thing he can probably speak on better than Brittany is that she was not tried criminally, but civilly, meaning she didn't scam people intentionally. And I'm not really sure how that's supposed to be better. Maybe she didn't start out intending to scam people, but at some point, she decided that was preferable over closing up shop. Brittany says she messed up, and if she could go back to fix it, she would, because she never wanted to hurt anyone, she wanted to help women, and
where there were hundreds that didn't get what they paid for, there were thousands that did, and they loved the program.
Brittany? Those hundreds that didn't get what they paid for wanted to love the program too. They wanted to be helped too. That's what they were paying you for. Oh my goodness. Anyway, from here, Brittany rehashes about how she took on too much and she gets emotional thinking about where she was back then because she had no social life as she was working from sunup to sundown, and mistakes were made because she was burnt out. And my impression is that they're going to throw out every excuse they can think of as to why it's not really Brittany's fault people didn't get what they paid for. Certainly, it wasn't for lack of trying on Brittany's end. She really wanted to help women. But when push came to shove and she realized she couldn't give women what they had paid for, I'm having a hard time understanding how she rationalized this allegedly deep desire to help women with, I'll just give them all the same plan no matter their circumstances. That's not the behavior of someone who wants to help. That's the behavior of someone who wants to make money. Anyway, Brittany says that there were a lot of things going on that she wasn't allowed to talk about, namely that she was scrambling to give refunds. She neglects to mention that she was, allegedly, having women sign NDAs to receive refunds, but anyway. She goes on to say that after the prank video and Good Morning America, there was a bandwagon mentality and people who had never even been a customer were photoshopping receipts and asking for refunds, and when she said no, they got ugly and she can't unsee those words. She tells us that people who had been customers in the beginning were coming back and asking for refunds, even though she has proof that they love their programs and got results, and somehow Jordan goes from there to...
Well, it was the early days of what we all now know and despise, which is another video
Cancel
that
culture.
you're going to talk about, but cancel culture. And it's this bandwagon mentality of, well, if these people did it, I'm going to hop on that.
Brittany helpfully put up a definition of cancel culture on the screen, and I would like to know when she was ostracized, boycotted, or shunned. People no longer purchasing from your business because you've been revealed to not actually provide what you claim is not cancel culture. That's just common sense. People asking for refunds when they were never a customer is not cancel culture. Those are scammers. And following 2019, Brittany pivoted to being a Christian influencer, and she's hosted retreats and started a podcast. And a look at Social Blade shows that her channel has been doing well. So please, when was she canceled? Jordan goes on to say there's only so much you can do as a business owner, and Brittany says the thing is that most of her products were digital and plans were never mailed out, neglecting to mention that she, allegedly, charged for shipping on those digital plans. Following this, Brittany mentions that shortly after the prank video went live, someone began a petition called Stop Brittany Dawn Fitness Scams.
And to give you guys context as to the cancel culture mentality, the bandwagon mentality behind this, 15,950 people signed that petition. That was like as of last week. I checked.
And it's still going?
Apparently. I know, it's ridiculous. I had a little over 5,000 clients. So that is 2/3 of people who never worked with me, who probably didn't even know who I was before this. And that is why, ultimately, the state of Texas opened up a lawsuit.
I can't decide if they're really this dense or if they're just pretending, but no, a petition to stop a scam is not cancel culture. That's being against scams. And you don't have to have been personally affected by the scam to be against it. In general, people don't like scammers, and Brittany knows this, which is why she's trying so hard to paint herself as a dumb kid who got in over her head. From here, Jordan, well, I'll let him speak.
The state of Texas has the ability to bring criminal charges against someone should their actions warrant criminal charges.
Yeah.
It was determined early on that none of this was done maliciously. Mm-hmm. So the folks out there that think that Brittany's going to jail, last time I checked, you can't settle a criminal charge outside of court.
No.
When you're charged with a crime, you go before a jury. You are either found guilty or not guilty of a criminal charge that then imposes a sentence. That can be decided by the jury. That can be decided by the judge at any point from 2019. This was never a criminal case. This was always a civil penalty about the business and the way her business was run and the mistakes that were made.
There was an actual...
Should it have been determined that this was maliciously done and with criminal intent, they would have charged her with a criminal charge. That was never done.
He sure seems to know a lot about trials, and they really want us to know that the state didn't think Brittany was scamming with malicious intent. And to be honest, I never thought that was her original intention, but that still doesn't change the fact that she charged people for products she knew they weren't getting, and she had no intention of stopping until she had to. So, sorry, but at least in my opinion, that doesn't make it better. Following this, Brittany states that after 9 hours of mediation, they finally came to a settlement and Jordan jumps in again.
The important part of the settlement is that the $131,000 and some change is attorney's fees for the state of Texas Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
$400,000 of that is what we owe and what we are going to pay back. $100,000 of that is restitution for the clients that didn't receive their packages, and $300,000 of that is what are called civil penalties, which are basically that's the penalty for not doing things correctly.
Yeah, that's the AKA the hard lesson learned.
The hard lesson learned.
Thanks for breaking that down for us, though I'm not really sure that was needed. Anyway, Brittany has been giving us her excuses throughout this video, but now she's ready to wrap it up.
Can I add something for you?
Yeah.
So one of the really difficult challenges throughout all of this has been Brittany's inability to speak on this because of being involved in litigation. There has been absolutely just ridiculous false narrative spread about her lack of cooperation with the state of Texas, and just failure to produce documents and all of this stuff. And none of that could be further from the truth.
Well, thanks for jumping in, but I'm not entirely sure Jordan is a reliable narrator about this topic. Anyway, he goes on to say they submitted over 60,000 business records, offered the state electronic devices that had the documents on them, and that they fully cooperated. And I mean, what else was he going to say? Maybe they did fully cooperate, maybe they didn't. It doesn't really change my opinion on this whole thing. Honestly, it's a drop in the bucket compared to everything else in this video. But I think this section is for a specific group of people, mainly members of a certain subreddit. Anyway, Jordan says they fully intend to pay back the $400,000, tells Brittany he's proud of her, and mentions future videos will talk about other things that have happened since 2019 that are completely unacceptable. And then back to Brittany, who says she can confidently say she's learned from this hard lesson, from her mistakes, from her errors, and she doesn't know what the future looks like, but this is in the past. She goes on to say that the last 4 years of her life have been a living hell, and it's time for it to be brought to the light. And I'm a bit confused because if she's going to be doing a 5 or 6 part series about the past 4 years, how is it in the past? Or does she just mean she doesn't want people talking about how she scammed people anymore? Anyway, we get this next bit in a beautiful display of humility.
I'm sorry. I've learned from my mistakes, but from this moment forward, I'm moving on. This is in my past. I have every right to move on. It's been almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in January next year. I didn't scam anyone. I didn't fraud anyone. I'm not a scammer. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a grifter. And I am done tolerating being called that by people online, by news headlines, by articles, by other YouTubers, by other people on TikTok who are really just ultimately chasing this story for clout, because at this point it's become a clickbait title.
It is entirely reasonable for Brittany to want to put this behind her. As she said, it's been almost 5 years and the trial is over. She's received her punishment and now she never has to think about it again. But she admitted wrongdoing, intentional or not, advertising one product and selling another, or not delivering anything at all, is scamming. And if you want to put something behind you, you probably shouldn't devote a 5 or 6 episode series to it. And I did do a search for news outlets calling her a grifter. Unsurprisingly, didn't find anything, but you can't control people's opinion of you, so I'm really not sure what she means by saying she won't tolerate being called a scammer or grifter. You did what you did, the social consequences don't have a time limit. Anyway, from here we cut to...
I'm so proud of the woman that I am today. I'm so proud of how I've handled myself, how I've carried myself with such grace through this fire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of myself for the growth that I've encountered.
Okay, but if she's planning to do a series about the things she wanted to say over the years but couldn't, is that really growth? And if the reason she didn't say anything over the years is because she legally couldn't, is that really grace? Anyway, Brittany says she's faced some hard things at 32 years old, and I'm left wondering if she thinks she's super young because she keeps mentioning her age like it means something. She was a 23-year-old baby when she started her business. She was sued by Texas at 28. She's faced hard things at 32. Does she think she's too young for these experiences? I don't get it. Anyway, Brittany credits Jesus for getting her through the fire and says he gave her the courage and tenacity to get through it. And again,
mistakes were made. I'm genuinely sorry, and I'm moving on, and I have every right to move on at this point in my life.
She seems a bit defensive about her right to move on, and Well, if someone wants to be an influencer, they have to put up with the things that go along with being an influencer. The more followers you have, the more people are going to be aware of you, and the more people that know about you, the more people will look at you with a critical eye. That's just how it is. Some of the things criticized are, in my opinion, silly and unimportant, but it's nothing special about Brittany. It's just influencer life. Not everyone is going to adore you, not everyone is going to love what you do.
This will be a 5-part series, possibly 6 parts in case this video becomes 2 videos. This is the beginning of some pretty intense conversations that I am ready to have, as hard as they are.
Well, I'm glad she's ready to have intense conversations, though I have my doubts about the intensity, but I'm a bit confused about how she thinks she's moving on if her next 4 to 5 videos are going to be about the past. I do enjoy how we have this declaration of, I'm moving on as is my right, and then we're back to the little girl voice.
Okay, well, we'll see you guys in the next vlog. Bye.
Well, that was something. I'm not impressed, and I have a feeling that her series will be about how Brittany is actually the victim. And she can put out whatever content she wants, but she can't control how people respond to it. And I don't think the response to the series will be what she would like. The better thing to do would have been to say, I'm sorry I was wrong, and actually move on. This, I'm sorry I made mistakes because I was a baby and I didn't know what I was doing, but I really cared, and now I'm moving on because it's been 5 years and it's my right, and I'm going to talk about all that was said about me during those 5 years. That's not the way. But YouTubers seem to have this inability to understand that they are not gods to be worshipped. Like Illuminati and Colleen Ballinger, Brittany seems to be going at this from the viewpoint of, I'm the actual victim here because what I did actually wasn't that bad, it was just blown out of proportion, and the real baddies are the people talking about it. Which is quite a take. I think she might find it a bit cold out there. But anyway, I just hope that if Brittany ever finds herself in a situation again, we don't hear how she was a 30-something baby who got in over her head. Because honestly, I don't think she actually learned anything. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.